Imagine this. Tomorrow morning, the world's richest billionaire announces a project unlike anything in history. We're bringing the Titanic back. Money is no object. The largest cranes ever built are ready. The most advanced submarines are waiting. Thousands of engineers have spent years planning every detail. It sounds impossible, but not because we lack the technology, not because the Titanic is too heavy, and not even because it's nearly 12,500 feet beneath the Atlantic Ocean. The real reason is far stranger. If you tried to lift the Titanic today, it would likely tear itself apart long before it reached the surface. Over the last 113 years, the ocean hasn't simply hidden the Titanic, it has slowly transformed it into something that no longer behaves like a ship at all. Many scientists believe a full recovery today would destroy one of history's most famous wrecks forever. So what happened down there? Why can't modern engineering solve this? And why does every passing year make recovery even more impossible? To find out, we have to travel nearly 2.5 miles beneath the surface into one of the most hostile environments on Earth. Welcome back to Imtisk, where we dig into the mysteries science still hasn't fully solved. When the Titanic disappeared beneath the Atlantic in April 1912, few imagined it would stay hidden for over 70 years. Then, in 1985, explorers finally found it. Many believed that discovery was only the beginning, that with enough money and technology, humanity could eventually raise the world's most famous ship. After all, we've recovered airplanes, warships, even rockets from the deep ocean, so why not the Titanic? The answer lies in a combination of physics, engineering, chemistry, biology, and time. Individually, none of these problems seems impossible. Together, they create a challenge no machine on Earth can overcome. And the first obstacle begins before a single cable even touches the wreck, because at Titanic's depth, the ocean itself becomes an invisible force powerful enough to reshape everything around it. Section 1. The world below 12,500 feet. At the surface, we barely notice the weight of the atmosphere. The ocean works the same way, except water is about 800 times denser than air. Every meter you descend adds more pressure. By the time you reach the Titanic, the pressure is nearly 380 times greater than on land, around 5,500 pounds pressing against every square inch. Imagine balancing a full-sized pickup truck on the tip of your thumb. Now imagine that force acting on every inch of your body at once. No human diver has ever visited the Titanic. Even military equipment can't survive these conditions. Only specially built submarines with titanium or carbon fiber pressure spheres can safely reach it. But here's the surprising part. That crushing pressure isn't what stops us from lifting the ship. Pressure affects everything equally. If a lifting system could survive those depths, the pressure itself wouldn't stop the recovery. The real problem is what 113 years of pressure have done to the ship. It's no longer one solid structure. It has become something much weaker. Section 2. The ship is no longer a ship. Most people imagine the Titanic exactly as it appeared in 1912, but that's not what scientists see. Modern scans reveal a wreck slowly collapsing under its own weight. Entire decks have disappeared. Walls that once supported hundreds of tons now resemble thin sheets of rust. Think of an abandoned wooden house. From the outside, it still looks like a house, but step inside after decades of decay and the floor could collapse beneath you. The Titanic is the same, except instead of rotten wood, its steel has been weakening for over a century. Salt water corrodes iron, and microorganisms accelerate the process. Every year, more metal disappears, more supports fail, more sections collapse. In many places, the outer shell is all that's left. The supporting framework inside has already vanished. Imagine lifting a burnt piece of paper using fishing hooks. No matter how carefully you pull, it tears apart under its own weight. That's the engineering nightmare facing anyone who dreams of recovering the Titanic. And before engineers can even think about lifting it, they face one impossible question. Where do you attach the cables? Section 3. The cable problem. At first, lifting the Titanic sounds simple. Wrap steel cables around it, attach them to cranes, then lift. That's how engineers recover many shipwrecks today. But the Titanic has been quietly falling apart for over a century. Imagine lifting a soggy cardboard box that sat in the rain for months. The moment you grab it, your fingers punch straight through. Now imagine that box weighs 40,000 tons. There's no strong place left to attach cables. The hull has been eaten away, the decks collapsed, the internal beams disappearing year after year. Even hundreds of giant cables wouldn't lift the ship. The force would simply tear through the weakened steel, raising thousands of broken fragments instead of one recovery. And that's before dealing with another invisible enemy, the ocean floor itself. Section 4. Sinking into the seabed. Most people imagine the Titanic resting neatly on the ocean floor. It isn't. Large portions of the bow have slowly settled into soft sediment over the century, like pulling a boot out of thick mud. The harder you pull, the more resistance you create. This is called seabed suction. It's the resistance created when heavy objects become embedded in fine sediment over long periods. To free the Titanic, engineers would first have to break that grip without shaking the fragile wreck apart. After 113 years underwater, one wrong movement could trigger a chain reaction of collapses. So if cables won't work, could technology offer another solution? People have suggested giant magnets, inflatable balloons, even filling the ship with millions of buoyant balls. Every one of those ideas runs into the brutal reality: physics. Section 5. Why every rescue plan fails. Some proposed enormous flotation bags. Others imagined giant cranes stretching across the ocean. One famous proposal suggested filling the wreck with millions of buoyant balls. These ideas sound clever until you look at the engineering. Airbags require strong attachment points, which the Titanic no longer has. Magnets don't help either, even if they gripped the steel. The steel itself is too weakened to survive the lifting forces. As for cranes, the deepest heavy-lift operations ever performed are nowhere near this scale. No existing crane ship can lift an object this massive from 12,500 feet. And even if one were built, the cables alone would weigh hundreds of tons before reaching the wreck. The deeper you go, the more the equipment itself becomes part of the problem. The challenge isn't just lifting the Titanic, it's lifting the lifting equipment. But the strongest evidence comes from something we've already done. We've recovered part of the Titanic before, and what happened next taught engineers an unforgettable lesson. Section 6. What the big piece taught us. In 1998, recovery teams raised a 20-ton section of the Titanic's hull, known as the Big Piece, one of the largest objects ever recovered from the wreck. The operation took extraordinary planning, special lifting systems, and an extremely slow ascent. It succeeded, but it also revealed something alarming. Once brought to the surface, the steel required immediate conservation. Without constant treatment, exposure to oxygen would accelerate corrosion. The lesson wasn't that the metal instantly crumbled, it was that even a relatively small section demanded years of preservation work. Now, multiply that across a ship nearly 270 meters long. The cost would be enormous, the logistics almost unimaginable. And time isn't helping. While engineers debate impossible recovery plans, tiny organisms keep working around the clock. Section 7. The ocean is eating the Titanic. The Titanic isn't simply rusting, it's becoming part of the ocean itself. Scientists discovered bacteria living inside strange formations called rusticles, hanging structures that look like underwater icicles made of rust. Inside them, microorganisms accelerate the breakdown of iron, slowly recycling the ship back into the surrounding ecosystem. Every year, more steel disappears, more walls collapse, more history is lost. Recent expeditions show that some famous sections have already vanished compared with earlier dives, not because of storms, not because of humans, because nature is slowly reclaiming every bolt, every beam, every plate of steel. Waiting doesn't make recovery easier, it makes it less possible every single year. Section 8. The final reason we should leave it alone. Even if unlimited money could solve every engineering problem, one obstacle would remain. The Titanic is a protected memorial. More than 1,500 people lost their lives on that cold April night. For many families, the wreck isn't an archaeological site, it's a final resting place. International agreements recognize its historical and cultural importance. Modern expeditions now focus on documentation and preservation, not large-scale recovery. Sometimes protecting history means accepting that it cannot be brought home. The Titanic represents one of humanity's greatest engineering achievements, but today, its greatest lesson isn't about how it was built, it's about how nature always wins. Pressure, time, chemistry, biology. Together, they've transformed a mighty ocean liner into something no machine can safely recover. The Titanic hasn't been trapped beneath the Atlantic. It has become part of it. And perhaps that's exactly where history was always meant to remain. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to Imtisk for more deep dives into history, science, and the mysteries our world still refuses to give up. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't the things we recover, they're the things we finally understand.